Hello internet world, we're back again, new year and all that, so happy new year. I don't think I've done an update since Christmas, so here we are. What can I tell you, just briefly? Wheel sets, I don't know if you can see, there's one hanging up there, not there, there's one hanging there. Just getting a coat of black. I've got, excuse me, I've got a wheel set done, or two wheel sets done that are on the bench on their axles. I'm not going to waft them into the camera because we know what they look like. Just doing an axle box at the minute, painted. I'm doing the cover. I think you saw that little snippet video I put on YouTube of me doing the starting the yellow on that. That's ready for two more coats. It's quite cold in here. Even though I've had the stove lit a while ago, it's still quite cold, so painting isn't ideal for drying especially. So lots of bits have come from Ed, lots of bits, and that's what's going to lead me on to this next video, or this, it's going to be a start of a multiple part series, I think, aside from these updates that I do. Now, you may have seen from our post, and I shared it through a lot of groups, basically about a part I've got to make up, which basically is the front drag box for the engine frames. There's a lot of parts in it, a hell of a lot of parts in it, and I asked the question of, should I film it or should I just do it as an update when it's finished? A lot of people were commenting and said, oh, film it, you know, show us progress so we can learn from it, or, you know, if you mess it up, see how you're going to rectify it and whatnot. So let me just show you some of the parts that are for it. The as I say, there's lots of parts to it. So there's these two bits. They kind of fit together, but they don't fit together. Well, they do fit together, but one sits on top of the other, a bit like that. Now you might think, why you got two exactly the same? The works drawings had it like that, so I've copied it. I could have just gone for a thicker steel and done one, but I saw the drawing and I drew it as I saw it. So what essentially that is going to form a part where the pony truck's going to push up against it, and these web pieces, there's three different lengths there, they're going to fit in the on each side of the riggers, as it were, to that. But the main structure for this drag box, I've already started kind of cutting bits off and kind of placing them in. You can see there, I don't want to, if I tip it up and try and hold on to the bits, so you can see there's lots of slots in it, and there's still parts I've got to cut off. So that's where we're going to start. We're going to start at the very beginning. There's some bits there you can see that are already pressed into it. Now these, if I can get it, these bits fit on top of there, and there's two of them, and they're going to sit together. I've still got to tickle everything up with a file. And now, I said about doing this in stages. It's a very complex fabrication, because I've got to work out which is the best way to solder bits together so I can get it all right. Now, I know someone out there in the internet world is going to go, just TIG weld it together, stop messing about with silver solder. And that's all well and good, but the TIG weld won't get into the gaps like that. Now, if I just hold that, there's a gap I'm not going to get in there. Yeah, see how small that gap is? I'm not going to get in there to TIG that up, or certainly my mate isn't going to get in to TIG that up. Yeah, so I've got to solder it because of how it is. So that's why I'm not going down the TIG route. So that's the bottom part of it. And then I've got these bits that I've already separated the ends off. These bits stand vertically like so. There's one at the back and one at the front. You can see they're different but the same. They're the same as in they're the same shape, but obviously that one's got 3 holes in it and that one's got a load of tabs and slots in it. A load of slots in it, not necessarily tabs as such. This is going to create the front foot plate support, and I've got to put some parts into the face of there that the front foot plate comes up and it bolts to it, but then there's a piece that sticks out on the top of there, so I have to tap the parts that are going to be here, then put on that bit, solder those 2 bits together. Because that's already tap ready, when the foot plate goes up against it, I can hopefully get my fat fingers in and put the bolts in when it comes to assembly. And I say hopefully because there's no guarantee. At this stage there's no guarantee that's going to happen. These pieces here, they sit between those 2 in those slots there. There's 2 slots there where my index finger and next finger is, and then there's some up there. These fit in those like so. There's 2 of them. Oh, my nose keeps running. And they separate those apart. That fits on the other side of that plate. Spaces that off. And you'll kind of see it come together as I solder it. I'm going to have to do it in multiple soldering sessions, and hopefully, fingers crossed, none of it falls apart as it's going on. And if it holds together well, I'm going to use that iron wire. Now, I got asked a question actually. I got a private message on Facebook. You say about iron wire for holding things together for silver soldering. I bought off eBay a roll of 1mm iron wire. And I pick iron wire because it will withstand the temperature, and especially when the torch, you saw in the other video, when the torch, you're heating the metal that iron wire is gripping, the iron wire gets very hot, but it can withstand the temperature without melting and spreading apart and buggering off and making a mess of the job. It withstands its heat. It'll glow red hot. The steel that's you want to solder together can get up to temperature. You can get that solder running. When it cools down, you cut the wire off, throw it in your scrap tin, and your part is held together. That's how that horizontal stretcher got done. So yeah, I got 1mm iron wire, sent him a link, and he's like, oh, they've sold out of that. What about 1.25? It's only 0.25 bigger. Should be fine for twisting up. I use a pair of pliers to wind it up, a lot like you're gonna, like the wire on top of a champagne cork. It's proper twisted round to grab hold of the 2 bits of metal that I want to solder together. So that's what I do with that. So what we're going to do now, I'm going to separate more of this up, file the tabs and everything, and we'll start kind of placing it where it all needs to go. You'll notice as well on that plate, these 2, they're overhanging, and that's because I need to put a bend in so it's then ends up flush with the front of this plate. These holes, if you can just see them, there's a little hole there and a little hole there. They end up becoming 2 rivet holes in the back of the buffer beam. They obviously go straight through the buffer beam, but you don't see them on the face of the buffer beam. They're flush. On One Works drawings, they're not there at all, which was my drilling slotting drawing for the buffer beam. Those 2 holes weren't there at all. I spotted them on another drawing for the same parts for the drag box and the buffer beam. I spotted these 2 crosses on the drawing, and I looked at this drag box and saw those 2 bits that were bent at 90 degrees. Well, not 90 degrees, they're bent at an angle to suit the front. Now, that's another thing, I need to put that bend in before I solder those on. And then I need to be able to hole transfer those when it's bolted to the buffer beam. There's a lot to go on It's a bit of a mind boggler at the minute, and you can tell why I put that. Should I film it or should I not? So anyway, let's go in and start pulling this apart. I'll do a bit of filming as I'm doing it, just to show what I do as I'm doing it. I'm going to transfer microphones to my clip-on one now, so hopefully the sound will stay going as it should do. So wish us luck. No, you won't. None of that nonsense. Let's get cracking. Let's get some work done. Okay, clip-on mic is attached. See this bit sticking out here? That is the two spacing pieces, so we're just going to part these. Bit overkill, I know. Yeah. Bit overkill with the size of saw I'm using. But gets through the job very quick. So what I'm going to do now, just grab my half round. Just going to clean up where that cut was. And I'm tickling the end of the tab there. Not too much to begin with. I want it a snug fit because I kind of gonna want it to hold itself together. So what I'm doing there is just making sure that there's no sharp edge on that edge there. You can see that edge there. There's a little sharp edge there. Just get that off there. Same at that end. You're not taking much off it, you're only just skimming it to clean it up. I got asked a question as well. What size? When I do a tab, are they dead to size or are they slightly bigger? Sorry, slightly smaller to fit, and they are dead to size, so they won't fit in at the start. In there, that one fits. So you can see there, that one's going to go in there, like so. And I've got to do the other one that's going to fit in there, like that. That will give me the space between the two. So you see that? That's an 1/2 inch tab on there with an 1/2 inch slot. Cut 1.5. There's enough room around it. There's enough wiggle in it. Enough room around it for the solder to run. So in part of my construction, I'm thinking, do I do these bits first, and then that's one piece all made up, and then put that into the actual plate, like so, and then do the solder run across there? Or do I put those bits on and those bits in there? Lots to think about with this, a hell of a lot. So I'm just going to tickle the end of those slots, tabs. Not taking hardly anything, literally just touching it so it'll fit. Bit less wiggle in that side than there is in that side, so that might determine which way around that one's going to fit. They're equal where that 1/2 inch is. See, it's going to sit flush at the bottom here. If you can see that, flush there. So it might determine where that's going to sit. So now I think I've made that slot slightly narrower. That's why nothing's fitting in it. I don't know how I could have done that, but it certainly looks like it. And if that's the case, what I'll do is I'll take a bit off the end of the tab. Just goes to show when you rush things in a drawing, you can cock things up. A friend of mine only knows too well with something I'm drawing at the minute. It's a bit of a side project to this class too. I'm not revealing too much as yet until we've got it all fitting together as it should be, and then the big reveal will happen. Some of you out there might go, oh, your filing technique's a bit shit. I don't really care, because it works. I'm not all about really can only do it one way and all the rest of it, and it wears your files out and everything. These files are probably as old as I am, and I'm 50 this year, and they're still as sharp as ever, regardless of my filing technique. So all those out there that are going to start rattling on about filing techniques can shove it up their backside as far as I'm concerned, but there we go. Anyway, let's not digress. So that's going to fit in there, that's going to fit on top of there, hopefully. We get the tab lined up, he says. Ooh. Tabs and slots are there to try us, eh? I think I've cocked up here somewhere in the drawing. Oh no, I haven't. Oh no, I haven't, as they say in Panto land. So one's going to go there, like that. I've got to work out what I've done here. Oh, it fits in there. It fits in there. That's right. Why is that tab not long enough? It's a tad short, as they say. Doesn't make any sense, does it? Because it fits there. That means it must fit there, which it does. But it doesn't fit over there. That one fits in. No, that one doesn't. What have I done there? I wonder. And where have I got to rectify the part to make it fit? See how it's going to go together. See that? You can see where the cock up is at the minute, and that's that tab just in there. Just trying to work out at the minute. That's a bit off camera, I know. Let me zoom out a little bit so you can see a bit more. What's zooming in? Here we are. Quite a bit more. Here we are. So I'm just trying to work out where I've got to rectify that tab so it fits. And I think I'm going to take it off the top. We'll pull that out of there. Leave that to one side. I've got to take that tab down up this end here. Stand it up. Like so. I'm going to get quite a coarse file, if I can find one. There. I don't want anything off that edge, I only want it off the top of that tab. So I've got a file that's got no serrations in here, but it's got quite a coarse edge there and there and in there. I'm going to put the blind side, as it were, on there. Just take that tab down a bit. So I'm literally just cutting the top of the tab. I'm not cutting that edge there. Not doing it by much. Just want to see if it's going to go. I'll do it from the back side. Nearly there now already. Because I've used quite a coarse file, I only need to give it a few rubs and it's done it. only 1.5 steel, remember. It's not a lot. So the other thing that a lot of people, well, not a lot of people, but some bloke said on YouTube, well, I couldn't be dealing with that one messy bench. I think it was on Facebook actually, and I says, oh, that's good because it's not your workshop, it's mine. I was always told if you've got a messy workshop, you've got a busy workshop, you can spend more time cleaning up than you can actually doing any work. I kind of know where everything is, that's all that matters. So I've got a bit of a bear on it, right where I don't want one. Excuse me. That should be now ready to fit. One side went in no problem. In there. The other side now should just fit, which it does. It's a tight fit, so when they're a tight fit like that, I want them to stay a tight fit. I don't want them to fall apart like that's just done because I was holding it incorrectly. To make sure everything's squeezing up as it should, just give it a quick squeeze in the vise. All the way down. That's it. I was going to hold it on top of there then. I don't think it will stay there without falling off. There we are. So that bit is ready in that respect. I'm just going to work out now whether that bit should be soldered on or not. I'm just going to pause you for a second and go and get the bottom bit, and then we'll put the bottom bit on top of the vise and work from there. So you can see there I've not pressed it in, but you can see the kind of start of the construction now. The bottom part, that bottom plate I showed you that marries up the same as that one, somehow on camera when we was doing the intro has managed to actually fit into the slots without me having to do anything to it. So it's actually sat on that at the minute, which you can't really see because it's on top of the vise. But it's managed to stay in it quite happily. So we're going to leave that as it is for now. What I'm going to do now, I'm going to tickle the ends of these tabs here to get any sharp edges off so that that will fit into there. These two end pieces that are here, they're obviously going to sit in these slots along the edges. So that creates an upright there. These have been purposely cut short in there and in there. So they sit on top of that. And again, this was a full fabrication in Darlington Works. So I know what you're thinking, like, well, why didn't you do, you know, that bit already attached to that bit? Because there's some of these, let me show you, these press into there. So I could have done that part as one like that. Instead of it being two pieces, it could have just been one and slotted into there and then slotted into there. I've done it absolutely as per full size would have been. This would have been a fold. This bottom plate with the front and the two sides and those two ends would have been an actual. It would have been folded up. On the works drawings, it's shown as folded up, but I'd have to make a former for that, and I'd have to get it dead square, and then it'd have to go in a press and everything. And I haven't got a press or anything big enough to do that. So tab and slot it is silver soldered together. Where on the works drawings it would have been welded, this is going to be soldered should give me exactly what I want. These are the bits that I was saying that need to be tapped. Those holes that are in there. These little web pieces are going to go in those slots, and they are soldered onto that face there. That creates the footplate support, which will cover all this in the end of the day. So when the engine's finished, you won't see this pretty little construction, but that's the whole point of doing these video updates, is that you can see what goes in, what work's going into this engine, and hopefully inspire you to have a crack at doing it yourself. By the looks of it, that'll all fit as I want it to. That tab there is getting on my tits a little bit because it won't stay in where it's meant to. So I might, once I've tickled these tabs up on here, I might iron wire those two halves together like that. Just enough to hold it so I can press it into there. Because what I want to do, I want to do a dry run of all this fitted together before I commit to how I'm going to solder it together. Does that make sense? I hope so. Otherwise this video is going to be wasted. So, what was we doing? Oh yeah, please. I'll show you this while it's here. Oops. It'll stay together long enough for me to flip it over. There we are. I didn't really do out that, it just held itself together. It's not quite there on that side, but it is on this side. I don't know what I've gone wrong there. I don't think I've gone wrong, I think it just needs a whack with an hammer, but or a little bit more filing off the tab itself. But you get the idea. It's nearly home now. So yeah, you can see the underside now. These two bits I've got to bend to marry up with the front of that. But then I've got to do a hole transfer punch through those two holes into the back of the buffer beam once I've bolted the buffer beam on. And I can't do that until all these tabs have been filed off after it's soldered together. So you can see where in my head I'm thinking, right, what's the next plan of attack with it? There's a lot to go into it. So we'll move that to one side for a second. We'll have a look at these tabs on the bottom of here. So same as before. Bit of a tickle on the end of there because I can see there's a bit of metal sticking up. One on the end of there. And before I do that last one, I'll move it along a bit. Because it's 1.5 steel, if you do it and give it a bit of vim and vigour, it can bend where you don't want it to, and then you've got to square it all up if you can. So what I do, take that leading edge off. I don't know if you can see it if the light bounces off it well enough. Just take that leading edge off there. One, it helps the solder stick to it, although this is all going to get embedded before I solder it. But also as well, where the cutters cut it, it's very sharp. So just take that leading edge off there, so it will then press in as I want it to. So this is the front, which goes in there. He says all the tabs line up. That's good. That's a good start. That click was a good noise, but it weren't because it didn't quite go. In the right spot, it's just not quite dropping in. I have to give that a bit more of playing around with. Let's try it the other way around. I don't know why I do that. Sometimes something like that does. Sometimes things will fit one way and not fit the other, and then you flip them round. It doesn't matter because it's a mirror. It's exactly the same one way or the other. what I'm going to do before I put the 2 centerpieces in, I'm going to see if that back one will fit without me tickling it with a file. Yeah, not quite. Not quite, he says. So, prop that in there. I can feel actually just there, there's a bit of a burr on it. As I say, the laser cuts it obviously very sharp. And all you're doing is just cleaning off those sharp edges. I just did the opposite of what I said in the last snippet on the last one. Take that edge off again. So I know that there's going to be people out there in the internet world that have been like scoffing at how I'm going with a file. I'm not really that bothered. I can't remember which one I filed of these. That's that narrow gap. I think it's that one for there, isn't it? Yes, it is. But before we plonk that in, we'll just see if that fits in there. Not quite that way. Flip it around. Oops. And it fit that way. So they fit in there quite happily. These I'll put in now, and then I'm going to try and drop all that together in one go without chucking it all over the floor. It's going to be a lengthy video, this, I'm afraid, but it's the only way to get it right, and for you at home to see that when mistakes get made, they get made, and that's that. Right. What I'll do is just pull that vise open a little bit so that sits better. That's it. Trying to work out where I took the metal off it. In there. I don't think that's right, but we're going to soon see. It's definitely not. Yeah, it's definitely not right. That is it. So now I've got to work out, just working out the one I narrowed down a bit. One of them I did. That one. Right, let's put that one way around. That way around. That way. You can see how you can easily lose your temper. You've not got patience. I think you need more patience with smaller scale stuff than you do with 7 1/4. I need some tappy action, I think. It might do, it might not. All depends if this front edge is going to play ball. It's close. It's not giving me the cigar. Right, I'm going to turn it on there so I can see it better. Oh, there we are. There we go. There. So you can see the whole construction now, or how it's going to go together. Yeah. That bit, I think I'm going to have to solder those two uprights first so it holds its shape. I've obviously proved now I can drop it in there once it's together. So if I solder those two together, I'll put some weight on them so it holds them the right distance apart. Solder those two first, get that its shape. Then I think it's going to have to be these ones in this face after I've tapped them. Then that one, then the two sides, those two sides, and then that top one to finish. Or those, sorry, sides, tops to finish. After that bit's done and those two middle bits are done. Once that's one constructed, I know that it's going to drop in there and I can run that solder in there and across there. Heat transfer isn't going to be a problem here because everything's 1.5 steel. So that's not going to be a problem. Once I've got those in fact I can't do that first, can I? Because I can't put those in if that's in place. So those will have to go in then that drops in, then solder those, solder the front, solder those at the back, flip it over, and then work on the underside. So that's going to be the plan of attack for the next video. Hope you found that informative. We'll just go into the other side and just digest what I've just shown you. Okay, so lots just showing you there. A lot to digest. Shows what the plan of attack is for the next video, but now I've started to construct it a little bit more, I can kind of see where I need to go with the silver soldering, which bit I need to do first. As I pointed out, I can't put the middle bit in before the sides because the sides won't fit in after that, so I've got to be very careful to get it in the right order. What I'm going to do is I'm going to chop up some more bits, loosely construct it, and then we'll start soldering it together. I'll apologise, it's a bit of a lengthy video, but it's got to be, plain and simple, but it's an extra to the update. One thing I'll just show you before I go that I had come through with that, and that's that little bad boy that's in there. That is part of the radial stretcher. Now the radial stretcher, or radial arm stretcher, that's the technical name for the actual pony truck pivot stretcher. It's called the radial arm stretcher. So if you're ever looking on the National Railway Museum's archives and you're trying to work out what bits are what, yes, it's called a pony truck in some drawings, but also it's a radial arm for something else. I found that out by trying to find what I needed to find. So thanks for watching and bearing with me with this. Hopefully you'll stick with it and you'll see the end result. I'm hoping all looks okay, even though there was that slight cock up that I had to file it. So these things happen. I don't know how it's happened because they're a mirror image, those two spacing pieces, so I don't know how that's happened where that slot's slightly different, but easily rectified. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.